You know, when I was in seminary, I used to hear some of the instructors talk about love, and they talked about, say, at least three different kinds of love. This goes back like to the days of the Greek philosophers and all that. Now, don't worry, I won't spend much time with the Greek philosophers. But there is the sense that they talk about, say, just like a love of friendship. There's like a love of like an attraction. Like I think, let's say, spouses understand that a bit. But let's say, and then there's also, let's say, like another kind of love that they often refer to as a higher kind of love, where people want to see the best in one another, and they're truly made happy by seeing the others around them happy. So they have that sense of attraction, that sense of like sexual attraction, and that sense, let's say, of just like offering a higher love kind of thing. Now, that was the Greek philosophers. In our day and time, and maybe this is something about culture, or maybe English with being, let's say, translations being just a little squishy sometimes, there must be at least, say, 10 or 12 different kinds of love. You know what I mean? I hear people telling me they love their oatmeal and their cinnamon and their raisins in the morning. I hear people tell me they love their home, they love their view in the morning, they love their car. I hear people say they love their job. And oh, by the way, there's love of spouse and love of family and all that in there too. So I have all those categories the Greeks were talking about, and all the other things we have too. You know, it's funny because, well, there's something about, say, that, there's two things I want to touch on briefly. One is, let's say, just from that letter we have, the letter from the first, from John here, John's first epistle, talking about how, see what love the Father has bestowed on us, that we may be called the children of God. You know, I think with all those different kinds of categories of love that we kind of encounter in our day and time, I'm not sure we always just have that understanding deep in our hearts that God really does love us, and loves us very, very deeply and profoundly. Because hey, sometimes we've got profound love on one hand, and we have love of our car on the other. We sometimes don't get those categories straightened out very well. But going a little further, I want to talk about the kind of love, let's say the kind of higher love that the philosophers talk about, and I think we talk about too, the ideal we want in our lives, that kind of love where we are truly happy for ourselves and for all those that we love, and that we draw our happiness and love from seeing others around us just being happy and prospering. And I think this is something we see in our gospel today, because when we hear Jesus talking about his experience as being a shepherd, this is not about loving his job. This is not about job satisfaction. He's differentiating himself from the other kinds of shepherds. In fact, maybe we need to think about that a little bit, because there's two different places in John's gospel where we talk about the good shepherd. This is one. The other one talks about, say, a Jesus who will be the good shepherd, who will say will lead his sheep to safe pasture and find them water and find them care. We have those, and then today we have this experience where Jesus is saying he's not like the other hired shepherds. We're thinking, hired shepherds? Wait a minute now. Where's that coming from? In that day and time, the people who were shepherds, generally speaking, they didn't own the sheep. The sheep were owned by maybe like some rich people in Jerusalem, or maybe by the Romans, for example, because owning sheep or owning cattle was a sign of being a person of wealth. And most of the shepherds were far from being wealthy people. They were hired on to watch the sheep. In fact, it's interesting. Jesus goes to talk about how disconnected, how not attached the shepherds are to the sheep, because they say when a wolf comes, these shepherds run away, and then the wolves come and scatter the sheep. You know, the shepherd might stay if one wolf comes out, but 4 or 5 wolves come out, see you later, I'm gone. That might, when he's explaining, let's say, to the owner of the sheep, all these wolves came out of the hills, what do you expect me to do? I guess that's supposed to be something that let's say that the owner of the sheep, who's wealthy, might think of, what's the phrase? It's the cost of doing business. You can't really defend yourself against all the wolves. But Jesus is talking about how he is not working for pay. He has deep concern for the sheep. He loves the sheep. He's attached to the sheep. I'm the good shepherd. I know mine, and mine know me. In the other passage from John, it talks about how the sheep know my name and I know my sheep. So we're talking about these different images where Jesus feels a deep connection. This is a great love. In fact, he even goes so far as to say, I will lay down my life for the sheep. The other shepherds cut and run. Jesus will give his life for the sheep. And that sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? It has a very Good Friday kind of echo, doesn't it? Jesus also goes to talk about how it's not just these sheep, not just us, but he says there are other sheep who are not part of this fold that I must lead, because there will be one flock and one shepherd. And we hear, let's say, about Jesus also talking about how he comes not just for the chosen people, but he comes for all people. This is why my Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes this from me. I lay it down on my own. I have the power to take it down. I have the power to take it up again. Hey folks, every now and then people say when they hear the Good Friday experiences, did Jesus go to the cross willingly? In John's Gospel, yes, he does. He goes on our behalf. And is there a certain Good Friday echo and a resurrection echo? Yes. I have the power to lay this down. I have the power to raise this up again. And this command he receives from his Father. So we get a sense that Jesus is talking about a very, very profound love that he has for the sheep, a very profound love he has for us. And we live in a day and time where maybe we're not quite sure what God's love means for us. I mean, does God really love us? Maybe there are times you think, I feel very disconnected and distant from God. Take this reading to heart. Jesus loves us deeply, profoundly, passionately. Underline that 3 times. And we think also, this is the Jesus who calls us to follow him. Well, okay, when we follow him, the example of the Good Shepherd stands out for us. How shall we respond in following Jesus the way he did? When we encounter those who are sick or hungry, those who feel very separated from everyone else, how do we respond to heal them, to feed them, to draw them in and make them feel welcome? All these things that we do where we can follow the example of the Good Shepherd, who is willing to lay down his life for us. There might be times when we might feel maybe not as quite as committed to that. I'm willing to follow you, Lord, but that laying down your life, I'm not sure about that. Well, let's give thought during this Easter season about where our commitments lie. We share in the love of the Lord, the risen Christ, the Good Shepherd. He speaks to us. How do we respond to him? He offers an example. Can we, given our gifts and the grace and the love that God gives us, to the best of our ability, follow Jesus? Are we willing to be good shepherds too?